Hey, I want to talk today about trauma bonds. Trauma bonds is a term that we hear quite often. I think most of the time it's used pretty appropriately, but I wonder if many of us really understand what it's about, why these relationships are so addictive and attractive. So I want to chat about it a little bit and give you a resource if you need more information. Have you ever been in a relationship before where you know it's unhealthy, you know it's not really good for you, but like you just can't stop? You just keep going back. There's something about them. You just feel like you feel this pull inside of you that you can't get enough. Or maybe you have a good friend whom you're like, what are you doing? This person is no good for you. They keep treating you like crap. They like, why can't you just stop? Like, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore if you're going to keep going back to this person, but they just can't stop. They keep going back. That is probably a trauma bond. We think it's love because it kind of feels like love and it has moments of like this really intense passion that so many of us crave. But in the end, it's not really love because there's this push and pull dynamic. There's this addictive quality to it. And most clients that I talk to about this, they don't actually really like the person. Like if they get really honest with themselves, they don't like the way that they're treated. When they're with this person, there's not a lot happening, but they still have this really intense pull to want to be with them, to want to be by their side. You know, typically people in trauma bonds will abandon their other relationships, or if you're out with your friends and this person calls or texts, then you will leave your friends and go immediately to that person. So we're going to talk today about what is this? What is a trauma bond? What causes somebody to act this way and have this really intense dynamic with other people? All right, so the basic definition of a trauma bond is that it's a deep emotional attachment formed when somebody is inconsistent, manipulative, or even abusive at times. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here and why people feel so attached and connected to somebody who's also really hurting them. All right, so if you just think about or understand the cycle of abuse, there is this phase in a cycle of abuse that we call love bombing, where they are really connected, they're really present, they're telling you how amazing you are, how special you are. And anybody who has any sort of sense of like lack of self-worth or unsure if they're beautiful or unsure if they're worthy or enough, and let's face it, we all have these moments, right? So we're all a little bit susceptible to this, but if you are particularly susceptible to feeling like you aren't quite good enough or that you're not quite worthy, if somebody comes along and is telling you you're amazing, you know, that you're beautiful or you're super handsome or you're so smart, like I can't believe you're so amazing, like how are you still single? And this person is just like so present and connected with you, of course, it feels really good. It feels really satisfying. And it gives us this dopamine hit of the feel good emotions, right? Where we just kind of get captivated and captured in these moments and it relieves our anxiety. So a lot of times we feel a little bit anxious if we feel like we're not quite enough or we're not worthy or we're not lovable in some way. And somebody comes along and tells us how amazing and special we are, then it soothes that anxiety a little bit and it just feels so comforting and warm. And it creates this bond with them. But what happens over time is the next phase of the abuse cycle is what we call the devaluation stage, the critical stage, where they start sort of criticizing you or cutting you down or making fun of you or ghosting you, ignoring you for short periods of time. And this creates a lot of anxiety and fear. It circles us back to the feeling we had before we even met this person. Like, am I really enough? Am I worthy? And so we begin to second guess the connection that we have with them. And we begin to feel really scared and vulnerable and upset because our biggest fear is coming true, that we may not be acceptable and worthy and lovable. So just about the time that we kind of detach and kind of self-protect and go into this place of, okay, never mind, it's like this person can sense that. And so then they step back in and they're like, I'm here. It gives this rush, what we perceive as love and acceptance. And again, it's that dopamine, that feel good energy that's coursing through our bodies. And oftentimes, I think this is what's so confusing for so many people, is the chemistry is really strong. And so maybe you're having really amazing sex with this person, or maybe you're just laughing a lot or having a good time. But as the relationship plays out, the push and pull becomes so exaggerated and so dynamic that the good times don't really feel that good anymore. Like I said, like most of my clients will say, it's not even really that fun to be around them anymore. I don't even really enjoy it, but yet I still can't help myself. Like if they need or want something from me, or if they want to be around me, like I cannot live without their attention and their connection. And so this cycle just continues to repeat itself. This is something that we can get stuck in, and it's really, really, really hard to get out of it because we think that the connection that we feel is love, and often feels like if I get out of this, then I'm not going to have anybody. I'm not going to be anybody to anyone. I'm going to have nothing. And as a human, as a mammal, this is like the worst feeling that we can have. And so we get stuck into thinking like that this is what love is. This is what connection is. Love is connecting, but love also hurts. And for many of us, this is a pattern that's repeated from early relationships, early childhood. I don't know anybody who's in a trauma bonded relationship who doesn't have a history of some trauma, relational trauma, either with a parent, a primary caregiver, somebody who was really important to them. They have a trauma history. And so our nervous system begins to think that this is what love is. This is what connection is. And the only way I can really get the attention and affection that I need is to also tolerate the disconnection and the ambivalence that I experience. And so we get stuck in these push and pull relationships. So if you have a friend who's stuck in this, or if you're stuck in it and you're like, I just don't understand why you can't just stop. I don't understand why you can't just walk away. I don't understand why you can't just end it and then have either nothing at all or a healthy relationship where it's just really stable and consistent. And there's a few reasons for that. One reason is, like I said, this is a pattern that's been repeated over time, and you think that that's what love is. So you just accept the fact that in order to have love and connection, I also have to have disconnection, abuse, or this phase of like putting up with their BS. Another reason is our nervous system is addicted with the dump of dopamine that comes after the rise of the cortisol. So the deprivation that we experience within our body and the stress hormones that come up, once we do get love and attention again from this person, then the dopamine dump that our body experiences feels so good. It's like a high. And so our actual nervous system gets addicted to that cycle and wants that connection. That's how it experiences being soothed and feeling good. And so our nervous system craves that experience, much like a drug addict or alcohol will seek the experience at all costs because their body is craving the experience. And the third reason is somebody who is used to having these big highs and these big lows feel like relationships that are just steady and stable feel really boring to their nervous system. They don't get this exciting excitement. They're like, this is boring. Why would I want to just hang out with somebody and not have this rush of excitement? And even the lows, it feels bad, but it's intense. It's like intense emotion you're feeling when they're in the worst of times, and these intense emotions that you're feeling in the best of times. And we get captivated by these big emotions. But what we don't understand is that when you're stuck in these trauma bond loops of big, exciting emotions and big emotions that are painful and hurtful, we get stuck. We can't really grow and develop through that. There's no depth. And that's why, like I said, over time, my clients, when they're really honest with themselves, their relationship starts to feel boring. It starts to feel boring in a different way. Like you're having these exciting emotions and then these big painful emotions, but there's no depth to the relationship. You don't feel like the person really knows you that well. You're not able to go do fun and exciting, new and engaging things. There's nothing stimulating really happening other than these big cycles of emotions. Versus having a stable, steady relationship with somebody who's consistent and calm and whom you can really get to know. It's what we call a slow burn. It can feel boring in the beginning, but over time, the depth of connection that you can experience with somebody who's safe far surpasses anything you could ever experience in a trauma bond. And the relationship has an opportunity to grow and evolve into interesting places and things and concepts and new ideas and new levels of sexual chemistry and new levels of just in general chemistry of getting to know somebody and evolving and developing your sense of self and discovering the depth of how incredible safe relationships can feel over time. It just takes more time to get there. It takes time to build. You can have these really big, exciting feelings and emotions. It just takes time to develop because it's developing from genuine, authentic connection, not from this addictive hit of fake manipulated connection. So I hope this is helpful and it makes sense and it gives you a little bit of an idea of why some people just can't walk away from trauma bonds. There are definitely solutions. I have plenty of them. I've got a hour-long masterclass on this topic. If this has been interesting to you, I'd love for you to check it out. It's in the comments, and I give you all the signs to look for in a trauma-bound relationship, and most importantly, I tell you what you need to do in order to get out of that relationship and stay out, so that you can develop healthy relationships that are supportive and authentic and are long-lasting. I'm Janice Holland, a licensed therapist. I'm here to bring you all the information and tools you need to know so that you can live your most authentic, courageous life.